United States Attorney's Office. I'm United States Attorney Jeanine Pirro. Every day in America, we lose innocent victims to violent criminals who seek to impose their violence on others. There is no timing. There is no warning. It's like a thunderbolt out of the sky. And suddenly, they are gone from us. And their families and friends and their community are left to suffer and wonder why. This is not only illegal, it is immoral, it is unacceptable, and we're not going to tolerate it. And that's why we're here today. Today, I stand here to address specifically the tragic event that has shaken D.C., the senseless, fatal shooting of a 21-year-old intern by the name of Eric Tarpinian-Jachym, who was fatally shot in Northwest D.C. far too soon on June 30th of 2025. He was shot and killed at 10:28 at night. He was hit 4 times. The scene involved 2 rifles, 1 9mm, and 79 rounds on the ground. Eric was a rising senior at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He was in the nation's capital, as many young people are, pursuing his passion for public service. He was interning for Representative Ron Estes, and he was an innocent bystander who was caught in a violent act that was not meant for him. He leaves behind his mother, Tamara, his father, Robert, his sister, Angela, and his brother, Jeremy. And his death is a stark reminder of how fragile life is and how violence too often visits us in the nation's capital. And this is why the president has vowed to make D.C. safe and beautiful. This is why the nation's the president is bringing together federal and local agencies to bring the force of the government against those who seek to destroy not only our quality of life, but our lives. And here to announce my thanks today to the Metropolitan Police Department. There are some real stars behind me who too often do not get the credit that they deserve. Right now, 2 individuals have been arrested, and this is a critical step toward justice. But our work is not done as we continue to seek a 3rd suspect in this case. Charges have been filed against 2 individuals, a 17-year-old juvenile by the name of Jalen Lucas. He is a juvenile, now charged in adult court. Another 17 years old, Kelvin Thomas Jr., another juvenile being charged in adult court, both of them charged with murder while armed under the D.C. Code 22-2101, which is murder in the 1st degree. Now, these juveniles have prior violent juvenile records in the family court. This is why, from day one, when I came here, I knew that we were missing a whole segment of criminals in D.C., in our nation's capital, because the D.C. Council thinks that these kids need to be protected. They don't need to be protected. They need to be made accountable, and we need to be protected. I am advocating and have advocated for jurisdiction over juveniles 14, 15, 16, and 17. They need to be brought into the criminal court so that we can prosecute them. Because if we do, we can prevent the murder that happened here based upon the histories of these 2 and the 3rd individual that I cannot talk about. Eric didn't deserve to be gunned down, and the system failed him. The system that felt that juveniles needed to be coddled. And it's bad enough to be gunned down on any street, but to be gunned down in our nation's capital is an outrage. This killing underscores why we need the authority to prosecute these younger kids, because they're not kids, they're criminals. They're violent criminals. We have to hold them accountable. We have to prevent them from robbing the innocents of their lives. Now I'd like to call upon the police chief, Pamela Smith.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judge Pirro. I'm pleased to be joined today by Mayor Muriel Bowser, the Mayor of Washington, D.C., and Judge Jeanine Pirro, and the members of the Metropolitan Police Department and our federal partners in announcing 2 arrests in the homicide of 21-year-old Eric Tarpinian-Jachym. I'm joined today by members of the Metropolitan Police Department, Assistant Chief Ramey Kyle of our Investigative Services Bureau, Commander Kevin Kentish, who leads the Criminal Investigation Division, and Detective Gabriel Truby of the Homicide Division. This morning, Judge Pirro and I had the opportunity to speak with Eric's mother, and our thoughts and prayers remain with the family, and we hope news of these 2 arrests, and a 3rd one pending, I'm confident we'll get the 3rd one, gives Eric's loved ones some sense of peace as they continue to grieve a tremendous loss. Eric came to our city with a bright future ahead of him, interning in a role where he served the public on Capitol Hill. He deserved an opportunity to return home safely to his family, but was senselessly taken from his loved ones. From the night of June 30th, our detectives have worked countless hours, gathering evidence that ultimately identified these suspects. I want to thank Homicide Detective Truby and his colleagues at MPD's Homicide Branch for their outstanding work. I could not be more prouder to stand with Detective Truby this afternoon. This was a complex case that required high-level detective work, and that is exactly what our team delivered. This is the level of dedication these detectives pour into every homicide case in our city. I also want to thank the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI Washington Field Office for their assistance throughout the investigation, and our partners at the Capital Area Regional Task Force, which we call Cardiff, and the United States Marshal Service for their efforts locating and apprehending these suspects this morning. I hope today's arrest sends a message to individuals who choose to commit violence in our city. If you harm innocent victims in our community, we will hold you accountable. I will now turn it over to Commander Kentish, who will share brief details and facts about the case that he's able to share today.
Good afternoon. I am Commander Kentish, Kevin Kentish, with the Commander of the Criminal Investigations Division. This morning, 17-year-old Kelvin Thomas Jr. of Southeast D.C. and 17-year-old Jalen Lucas of Northwest D.C. were placed under arrest by members of the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force and United States Marshals. They were arrested pursuant to a D.C. Superior Court arrest warrant, and they were both charged with first-degree murder while armed, premeditated. Both are being charged as adults in this case under our Title 16. The investigation revealed that around 10:30 p.m. on the night of June 30th, our suspects got out of a vehicle at the intersection of 7th and M Street Northwest. They opened fire in the direction of 2 individuals that were riding a bike southbound in the 1200 block of 7th Street Northwest. One of those individuals, a 16-year-old male, was injured as a result of the shooting. He ultimately survived. 20-year-old Eric Tarpinian-Jachym and an adult female were also struck by gunfire. Neither were the shooter's intended target based on our investigation. Mr. Tarpinian-Jachym was subsequently transported to a local area hospital where he was pronounced deceased. After the shooting, we know that our suspects re-entered a vehicle and fled the scene. Detectives determined that the vehicle had been stolen in Maryland days prior to the homicide. Shortly after the homicide, the vehicle was also recovered unoccupied in Maryland. Over the course of the investigation, detectives spent hundreds of man and woman hours analyzing surveillance video footage around the shooting, in addition to multiple other surveillance video footage in the area. That video footage, along with assistance of community members and analysis of evidence recovered throughout the investigation, ultimately led to the identification of 3 suspects. Once those 3 suspects were identified, we applied for search warrants that were granted that day. Following the identification of our suspects, we then sent our warrants over to Cardiff. During that process, Cardiff and the United States Marshals were able to identify our suspects and locate them this morning. At this time, detectives believe that the shooting was a result of ongoing neighborhood crew dispute. We are still investigating this case, and ultimately, if you have any additional information, please call 727-9099. And if you have any information that you wish to remain anonymous, please text us at 50411. I will now turn it back over to Judge Pirro for any other comments. Thank you.
Mayor Bowser.
Thank you, Judge. I want to echo what we've heard today about ensuring that there is justice for Eric. Any level of gun violence in our city is unacceptable, and certainly someone just walking up the street in the evening on one of our DC streets should be safe in doing so. I wanted to be here with the Chief of Police, with our outstanding detectives and investigators and our federal partners, to thank them for the many, many hours of work, hard work, putting the pieces together to ensure that there is justice served here. I couldn't be prouder of MPD. My condolences certainly go out to the family, and I want to thank Judge Pirro for her attention to this, not just through this arrest, but all the way through the prosecution. Thank you.
I didn't mention that the United States Marshal Gadi Serralta is here. Gadi, you want to say anything?
Just
Go ahead.
the only thing I can say is that the focus of the task force going forward is to catch and arrest and bring to justice the third individual that we're looking for.
Thank you. Okay. If you use a rifle in a crime, we prosecute you. No. You see, the problem with that was not recognizing that you use a rifle or a shotgun in a crime, you are going to be prosecuted. There is no there is no problem going forward with those prosecutions. I'm sorry? Well, the thrust of your question is really not a part of this case. We've got shotguns, actually rifles, and a 9mm, okay? And we had a shootout. And by the way, there isn't just this one homicide victim. There are 3 other victims. They did not die, and a 4th victim who suffered shattered glass, I believe, on her face. So there are other victims as well in this case. Yes?
Judge, and this is also to the mayor. Do you expect that the process that you're advocating for, which is to take more of these juvenile cases, is that something that you require Congress's approval, and do you have the city's or the mayor's support for that? Is my first question.
Okay. To answer the first, and I'll let the mayor answer the second. Number one, the D.C. Council has coddled young criminals for years. They reject mandatory minimums that the law requires. They don't force judges to follow the law. They have something called the youth rehabilitation and the incarceration reduction, as well as record sealing. Everything we do, the D.C. Council is looking to change to benefit the criminal. To specifically answer your question, we're going to need Congress to change the law. And I believe that if there's any case that calls for it, it is this case that makes it clear that these young punks who are on the street with guns, shooting at each other, killing innocent people, they need to be brought into my system and not in the family court system for rehabilitation, because they've been in that system more than once. And I don't think they've been rehabilitated. Go ahead.
Well, I'm not going to comment on any pending legislation, but I will say this. The reason why we're here talking about 17-year-olds being charged as adults is because the U.S. Attorney has that authority for 17-year-olds. And I think I would agree with the judge that cold-blooded murder qualifies as a crime that should have a 17-year-old considered as an adult.
And Judge Pirro, just to follow up on the ongoing, I guess, war of words, where we might describe it between you and Judge Faruqi, I'm just wondering, one of the things, he had very sharp words yesterday saying that the office essentially had lost some credibility, in his view. What do you say to the grand juries which are returning true bills, and is there a change that needs to come from your end of things?
Absolutely not. Judge Faruqi has never really met someone with an illegal gun that he hasn't felt some compassion for, okay? And I'm not going into grand juries and telling him what to do and what not to do. That is their prerogative. We are advisors to grand juries. We tell them what the law is. We present cases that are clearly based on the evidence, okay? And you and I can go through every case, and I can show you how every element of the crime has been met, and then it's up to the grand jury to make a decision. But as far as I'm concerned, my job as a prosecutor is to bring criminals into court and to try to prove my case beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not into going back and forth with judges. I was a judge, okay? That's not what I did as a judge. So we need to leave politics out of it. I'll do my job. He should do his job as a judge and leave his politics out of it. That's enough. Yeah. Yes.
Just for clarification, the third suspect, are they also a juvenile, and will these suspects face additional charges given their
This case will be presented to the grand jury, and there will be more charges that were added. The other individual, I'm not going to get into identifying his age. I don't want to specify who he is. He's a teenager. Yeah, I don't want to say. Do you want me to say his age? No. Yeah, not a minor. Not a minor. Last question.
Judge Pirro, would you consider seeking the death penalty in this case? And for Mayor Bowser, Attorney Pirro has said that she would consider seeking the death penalty in civil cases such as the Capitol Jewish Museum shooting. Is that something that you would consider?
Number one, under the D.C. Code, which is what they're being prosecuted under, 22, I think it's 2201, there is no death penalty in the D.C. Code, so it's not a possibility. It's only a possibility in federal cases. This is not a federal case. Wait, can you talk?
I prefer not to. A little intimidating.
Good afternoon. We were able to identify and track these suspects through various videos throughout the Washington, D.C. area. We did multiple interviews. We spoke with a lot of people. And in reference to this morning, all suspects were apprehended in the District of Columbia.
Where?
I'm not going to specify exactly where, but they were apprehended in the District of Columbia. I don't know. We've been investigating the case. What they've been doing on a day-to-day basis would have to be asked to them.
All right. I just want to mention two people. These are two of my homicide prosecutors, the best prosecutors in my office for this kind of case, and I'm very proud of them. They've been working on it day and night. This guy's a superstar, okay? He is a detective. I'm very proud of the work that we're able to do together with our law enforcement partners. This was a real joint effort, and with Phil and the FBI, this is how it's supposed to work, and it did work. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Truly. Good stuff. We can circle out. Oh, yeah. Thanks.